Welcome back, ladies and gentlemen, for another episode of the Vitality Blueprint. Today's guest, we have Mason Kuhr on. He is basically just Chad ramming life now, so I feel like everyone's going to get a very cool insight on how life can actually be lived and, actually following your passion and kind of crushing it in the health space. So it's an honor to have you on, bro.
Appreciate it, bro. Glad to be here.
Awesome. So we were just talking for a little bit before, and you jumped on and you said you've just done a colon cleanse. So walk me through what that was like.
Man, so yeah, I've been on this journey where my goal over the next, year, 2 years of my life is literally cut out every type of toxicity we can experience as men and women, which is, physical, so organs, parasites, heavy metals, all that stuff. But then also too on a spiritual level, so like people, knowing who we are as men and women, stepping into law and our sovereignty, which is a whole nother topic. I'm going to this workshop next week in Scotland to actually embody all this stuff. So yeah, it's crazy. But that colon cleanse, it was using Chinese herbal medicine. Great brand I'm connected to, but I also have a friend who's taking me through this process. And then about it was 2 months ago, I believe, I did a liver cleanse, and the amount of stuff that came out of that was, it blew my mind, dude. Cause it's like, we're top 1% lifestyles of how people live in terms of health. Right. And so it's like seeing all these gallstones, hundreds of gallstones came out. Right. And seeing all of that, all the toxins coming out of my body, I'm just sitting there and I'm thinking, I'm 25 years old. I've eaten so healthy for the past, probably like 5 years of just since I gotten into this space. And, fasting regularly, all these things. It's like still seeing that come out. I was like, oh my God, I cannot imagine what a 50-year-old looks like, a 40-year-old who's been eating garbage their whole life. Even people in their 60s, 70s who grew up in like the Crisco generation and all this crap. It's like, dude, that's the reason we only live to be 74 years old on average, is because we have this stuff inside of us that no matter what we try and do, our baseline is always lower, right? So it's like, I saw that come out, and then I did the colon one today, and there's this stuff called mucoid plaque, which we can have in our intestines. There's a high chance you have it too. No matter how no matter how aesthetically look on the outside, like there's probably some rust on the inside. Yeah. And so basically this stuff is like old decaying toxic matter that is stuck in the insides of our colon, our intestines, and we basically just have to get it out through nuking it with herbal medicine. I'll show you a pic. Do you want me to put it on here?
Yeah, pull it up, man.
Dude, it's horrifying, honestly. All right, check this out.
What the hell, dude?
Yeah, bro. That came out of my intestines today. And so it's just like a foot long.
Lord. Yeah, man. What?
Yeah, and here's the liver. Here, I'll show you what the liver one looked like. So these were all gallstones, bro.
Holy crap.
Yeah, dude.
That's outrageous, man.
That's what I'm saying. And I'm like, no one is talking about this enough. And so I'm like, I'm really on this mission now where I want to go through all this so I can come from this place of knowing truly deep down, like what the experience is like and the best way to do it, so we can clear this out. Because it's like the way I see it. And are you familiar with Hermeticism?
No, run me through that quickly.
So, like the Kabbalion? Have you read the Kabbalion?
No.
Oh, wow. Yeah, you would love it.
Yeah,
so
okay.
There's 3 different types of, spiritual sects, sects,
yep,
that have existed throughout history. And so you have like the more monotheistic type ones. So you got like Christianity, Judaism, all that.
Mm-hmm.
Another one are more of like the conscious focus ones. I forget what the term is, they label them, but it's like Buddhism, Hinduism, all that stuff, like more Eastern, right? Yep. But then you also have the mental alchemist type ones, which this one is known as Hermeticism. And it came from this guy, Hermes Trismegistus, who's also known as Thoth. right? Who
Yep.
the ancient Egyptians, who they worshipped, right?
Mm-hmm.
And so it's like when you read the Kabbalion, there are 7 main universal laws, right? Starting as the law of mentalism, law of correspondence, which is as above, so below. You probably heard
Mm-hmm.
that one.
Yep.
Law of vibration, rhythm, polarity, gender, all these different laws, right? And so if you learn how to use these, then that's how you align with the universe. Like that's how you align with truth. What was I'm hitting a tangent. How did I even get to this? I'm
We're talking
connecting it.
about the colon cleanse and the liver cleanse.
Oh, dude, I don't even know how I connected into this. But honestly, like I would say like as you clear all that stuff out, it raises your vibration up, right?
Yeah.
So it's like we have all these toxins inside of us that are dragging us down, lowering our vibration. We literally cannot get to the consciousness level we're meant to be with these things inside of us, right? So it's like the reason I'm going on this journey is so that I can clear that out, attract my ideal future, and then drag people along with me. God, I don't know why my brain just blanked so hard. Maybe it's because I lost it through my gut today.
Side effect of the colon cleanse. No, yeah,
That's,
that's cool, man. So
yeah.
it's basically, it's almost like lifting the veil, right? So you can see clearly. Is it like for aligning yourself? You said like with a universal purpose, right?
Yes, exactly. And so it's like, yeah, as above, so below. Like who we are on the inside is going to manifest outwardly, right?
Mm-hmm.
And so, if we have, that's where I was going with it. If we have all these toxins and parasites on the inside, right, then we are more prone to manifest and attract toxins and parasites on the outside. So I
Yep.
made a video on this one time where I was like, if you look at people in toxic relationships, right, or parasitic people, there's
Mm-hmm.
a high chance that they have one inside of them.
Yeah.
Because they literally they're like manifestations of demons. Have you seen there's this brain controlling zombie fungus. Have you seen that?
Yeah, I've seen that. Yep. On
That's
like
how
insects and things, right? That's
yeah,
it's basically the same, just less prevalent, and you can't see it as much, right? It just infects them from the inside and their behavior towards other people and society as a whole, right?
yes, it's like walking them up this plant to go die. And so
Yeah.
I mean, it's the same with these things inside of us. They're literally attracting situations where we become stuck in parasitic relationships. And you can tell almost by the way someone speaks whether they have a parasite or not. So it's like a lot of people, I don't know what's up with this crap going around Twitter talking about defending parasites. It's driving me insane. But it's like,
I've yet to see that, thankfully.
yeah, I'm like, it's the raw meat thing. Like, I get
Right.
it's good
Yep.
for vitality, but like, you're just asking for trouble with that. And it's at the end of the day, I've seen what they do to people in terms of their health. They lower their lifespan, they drag their vitality down, and it's like if you're standing there defending those things, then bro, you got a parasite because
Yeah.
that thing has got your mind. It's telling you what to say. So I mean, they're part
I've
of
seen
you.
some stuff of that actually. Yeah, like almost it's like a mind control sort of virus or parasite, right? Where it's using your mouth to convince other people to ingest like a parasite, right?
Yeah, it's not
Yeah.
like you have a screen in front of you that's like telling you what to say. It's like this thing is
Mm.
inside of you. It's literally
Yeah.
attached to your biology. So
Yeah.
it's like, especially the gut. I mean, since 95% of our thinking's done in the gut, I mean, imagine you have a parasite in there. It's literally latching onto your brain.
Yeah. It's definitely not the optimal way to live. That's for sure. So,
No.
like, walk me through what sort of herbs did you have to take for this colon cleanse, and then we'll do the liver cleanse after that, because I'm really interested to hear, and I'm sure someone listening is going to get some benefit from that as well.
Yeah. So for the liver cleanse, I started with, there's this one liver detox supplement. There's a bunch of different herbs in there. So there's probably like 15 different herbs in there.
Yeah.
As well as some ormus, but then also took Tudka.
Yep.
Right, so Tudka helps with the liver, and then also is taking Spartan bee bread because that helps detox the heavy metals.
Mm-hmm.
Has the glutathione, the antioxidants to help get rid of all that shit too. So started taking those for about a week. Right, I mean, I've been taking bee bread since the start, but added those other two in for about a week before, start really loosening up what's going on inside of the liver. And then for the actual detox itself, there's this company, through my link in bio, they can check it out. It's Zen Cleanse, but I used this kit that's for liver specifically, right?
Yeah.
And so inside of this kit, there's like 12 different juices that you have to drink, right? So I drink one of these every single hour. There's different like enzyme packets, there's fermented liquid enzymes. And so I'd go through this process where every hour I'd have a different type of drink. And so you can call it fasting, you're just food fasting, but it's like you're drinking all this water and enzymes. And so it works in 3 stages with the liver. Is basically stage 1 is it is attacking all this stuff inside the liver. It's breaking it down with the enzymes. Stage 2 is it's opening your bile ducts and opening the pathways that can clear it out. And then stage 3 is you actually flush it out, right? So it's like I had all these drinks throughout the day, but right before you go to bed, dude, they tell you in the instructions, because there's like at the last one, there's these 2 giant vials. One of them has an olive oil mix, and one of them has like papain and bromelain and you know, all these fermented fruits in there. And so they have you put it into one jar and shake it up. And as soon as you drink this, they're like, you need to lay down on your right side and just meditate on your liver. And I'm like, I don't know why, but I'm just going to do it. And so I shake this thing up, bro, as soon as I chug it. And it's like what you'd imagine drinking a bottle of olive oil is like. It's that thick. As soon as I chug it, I just feel like a nuke in the stomach. I'm like, oh God, I got to lay down right now. I lay down on my side and I feel all this stuff like going into the liver immediately. And it feels like World War III is going on in there. Like, I'm serious. I can feel things getting broken up. It's just like boom, boom, boom. I'm like, oh my God, it's like Mike Tyson just put me to bed or something. So I'm laying there meditating. I'm like, oh, go to sleep. And honestly, like, it was painful. I'm not going to paint a picture like it wasn't this, you know, like it was this easy experience. It really wasn't. But I woke up the next morning and I did a couple more enzyme things to like get it moving, to make your body start the metabolic processes. As soon as I started releasing that stuff, like all those gallstones, that's what came out. And I'm just looking at it and I'm like, wow. Like, you see it in a picture, but when you see it come out of yourself, you know, and you had that connection to it for years and years, it's just one of those things that puts so much in perspective. Like, I can't believe that was inside of me, and I can't believe the average person probably has more than that.
You know, because like you said, we're living basically like the top 1%, probably easily health-wise lifestyle, right? And that's still the result. So it's almost worrisome what, you know, the average American dieter that's 50 years old, like you said, would be having going on in there. It must be pretty grim.
It's nuts, bro. I mean, my great uncle was just in the hospital he's getting gallstone surgery, like removed. I'm like, you hear that and you're like, oh, they're just getting a surgery, but it's like, I know what was in me. I'm like, I can't even picture what was inside of him at like 70, right? So, you know, it changes your mind. Yeah, for sure.
And then how do you feel straight afterwards? Like, do you instantly, do you feel better?
Yes. Like, your consciousness immediately feels like it just took a step up, and you have this level of clarity inside of you, more peace. Like, I had a lot of anxiety before, or be very like a type A, quick to temper type, right? And so the liver too, each of our organs stores an emotion, right? And so the liver is the home of frustration and anger, right? And so when you have all that tension going on in it, you create that tension inside of yourself, which is, you know, preventing energy and motion from cycling through. And so we're creating these, you know, chakra blocks, these energy blocks of the meridians. And that's why it's so important, more than anything, is like, not just to clear it out physically, but the emotional and spiritual growth and relief that you have from doing the same. It's wild. And you don't get into as many of those situations. Like, I've definitely noticed and interactions been a lot more grounded. Holding attention a lot more firmly. There's a lot more power in the communication. So just like little subtle things you notice, but so big at the same time.
Yeah, no, that's awesome. And what's the like time frame between, scheduled times where you're taking the 12 drinks? Like, is it every year? Is it every decade? Like, what's it sort of look like?
So that was all in, you mean between each drink or just doing it over and over?
No. So each drink's like throughout the day, right? So you do one every single hour. But
Yeah.
then like, so that was how long ago? A couple months ago or something?
Yeah, a couple months ago.
Yeah. So when will be the next time you're doing it?
I'll probably do it a couple times a year.
Okay.
If not once a year for sure. But it's like, I don't know how long. I got to research more how long it takes for all those gallstones and all that stuff to actually build up.
Yeah.
So a lot of it's from fat and cholesterols too. So, it depends as well on your diet, right? You'll want to change your diet up after this. I definitely did.
Yeah.
I love red meat, love all that stuff, but I do know it's very fatty too. So it can contribute to more, bile releasing, which can increase the amount of gallstones in there. So it's like, you want to find that balance with the diet too. I'm a believer. Yeah, I'm a believer.
A lot of it's from diet, right? Like a lot of, I was just doing a podcast with Anthony Chafee before this, and we were talking about diet, and diet's literally like the one driver of your health, like the biggest driver, and with a poor diet, you're just going to feel shit mentally, physically, spiritually. Everything's going to be blocked up and bad and not optimal, right? And then there's ways you can position yourself so that you're opening yourself up to actually that higher playing field, that higher vibrational state that you're talking about. And a lot of it's coming from diet, and like we were saying, you're sort of eating basically the best food you can, right? And imagine the people that aren't. It's like I said, it's like worrisome.
Yeah, you literally are. I mean, you are what you eat. I mean, it becomes your cells, so that's why you see people eating Big Macs and fast food all day, every day. It's like you're slow and you move around like a robot because you're eating synthetic food. So it's like there's no actual. We're eating things for the vibration of it and the energy of love. That's something I saw. I did ayahuasca in December. I had a very, very visceral experience and insight that when we consume anything, our main goal is to consume this all-encompassing energy of love, right? And so love is the highest vibration we can get into. And it's more so, it's not like lovey-dovey love is how it's expressed, but truth and authenticity, right? And so when things are not aligned with that, their vibration lowers and they go down the scale of consciousness. And that's why most people are living at that area, because they're consuming things that are aligned with it. And so it's like the closer to nature you can consume, the more quality it is. And that's what I was saying before, is my diet is qualitarian. So I just focus on the quality of it and balance that out. The more you can do that, the more aligned to nature you will actually be, and the more grounded you'll be, because they also affect your chakras in different areas, right? So like, that's one of my favorite topics to talk about in nutrition, is how they affect your chakras. So if you look at meats and plants, they're telling you what areas of the body they affect. Like you have meats you got red, like darker colors, they're heavier, right? So like those animals, they're connected to the earth, they're grounded. The plants, the energy from them cycles through them, these grounded animals on the earth, right? So that gets your root chakra. And that's normally why when you eat red meats and meats in general, you feel more primal, your libido goes up, you have more drive, your testosterone goes up, because you're affecting literally that chakra area of your body. Versus if you look at like vegans, right? There's nothing wrong with it. It's an amazing, the best detox mechanism for sure. I wouldn't call it the most sustainable for vitality long term.
Yeah.
But all those things are very light energy. So they drag your energy up into your upper chakras, and you hit like the crown, the throat chakra, all of that stuff. And so that's why you get a lot of vegans are very ungrounded and heady, right? Very heady energy. And so it's like you want to find that balance. And if you look at the balance, the very middle chakra is the heart.
Mm-hmm.
Right? So it's like that's how you align. And I think too, a lot of like what Christianity's talking about in the Bible is, this in a metaphorical sense too, is bringing people into the heart so they can experience God truly. So all these guides are around us.
Yeah, it's really interesting, like the interpretation of not just nutrition, but like the Bible itself and religious texts and things like that. And it's very interesting to hear people's perspectives on it, right? Because everyone, when they do read it and when they do, research it, they all have their own opinion on it, and it speaks to them in slightly different ways, and
100.
a lot of these like churches and new age churches, they're just reciting like their interpretation of the words, and then that's why so many from church to church you see quite big differences between what they actually practice and what they preach, but it's all coming from the same source. It's just their interpretation of it is slightly different, and then hearing yours, like if you want to go deeper into that, that'd be interesting to hear about.
Yeah, I'm totally down. I mean, I think a lot of new age it's become a psyop in a way.
Mm.
I've gone really deep down that hole, bro. Like,
Yeah.
I lived in it for, years and years, but it's like you have to be very conscious to not let yourself gain a spiritual ego, right? Because a lot of what the new age can say sounds good in theory, but it's really just this ego play where you get, for example, people talking about manifestation and law of attraction as if we're just the ones creating it. But if you really go into the metaphysical side of things of new age and understand hermeticism, using the basic principle of as above, so below, for example, you would know that we are connected to the things outside of us. So there is power outside of us that's combining with us to co-create, right? So it's like a lot of this manifestation belief is that, oh, it's just us doing it. It's like, no, there's been instances in your life where you're like, I can't believe that just happened. That's not always in our control, right?
Yep.
There are factors outside of us and we're just aligning to them. Law of attraction, most people think they can sit there and just think about this reality coming into existence, but it's like, no, the real thing is you have to be the person who's aligned to that reality, and to be that person requires you to take certain actions and think certain thoughts and be doing certain things that's already there, right? It's like you want to become a movie star. You can't just sit there and think about being a movie star. You have to actually stand up and act as if you are a movie star.
Yeah, 100%. No, I'm 100% on the same page about that. It's like, you have to think about it, and you have to know it's a possibility in the future to achieve that, otherwise
Right.
you're just kind of hoping on chance that you stumble into that role. But like to actually make it happen, you have to go out and act and become a movie star. Like you said, you're not just going to sit on the couch and will it into existence. You have to do that first, and then the downstream effect of you willing it into existence and the actionable things from that is actually doing it, and actually going out there and acting and doing everything it requires to become that movie star.
Right. And it's like in the Bible, I forget what the verse is, but it's about, basically having faith the size of a mustard seed can move a mountain. Right. And so it's like the same thing in our daily lives is the universe is always co-conspiring. Like I'm a believer in God, a creator, and I know, but God wants us to win, right? Like he wants us to be abundant and live in the image of how we're meant to live on earth, like what we're designed for. And so it's like all we really have to do is just do the basic things and everything else conspires around. Like I look at my business, bro. This is built up around me. Like there's only a few things I've really like had to do other than lead and direct and point a vision. And most of it has just been built up. I mean, since the beginning, I've just been making videos talking about it and putting out cool products. Other than that, like the other people come in that help make it bigger and better. And it's like, I look back, a couple of years ago when I started this to now, and I'm like, it's really just grown. There wasn't a ton that I've done. There are things that I've done, but looking back, I mean, it really feels like it's just been built up around. And that's just because there's been the like basic action of walking with faith. That's really it. Like it's always building up around us.
Yeah, and you're almost attracting that energy, right? And you're attracting those people that can build because of that sort of leadership role you're talking about, right? And you're having that direction, and then with having that and such solid foundations, you're almost attracting the people that can bring it into life, right?
Exactly. Yes. And so I'm working on a program on this on the back end where it's like I notice a lot of founders and creators and all that stuff. They're wanting to, they're putting out all this content and creating all these things, but it's like, they're still broke or struggling to, make any money at all or do anything, with other people outside of themselves just making content.
Yeah.
And it's like, the difference is that they're not taking these principles and they're not stepping authentically into that role of the person who carries the faith. Right. And so like, that's really what makes someone influential is when they have that level of certainty, it becomes a vacuum. Right.
Yeah.
And so I know so many founders who they're holding themselves back, which is only holding their creations back. Right. And that full self-expression of walking in faith, it literally does magnetize everything you want. Like that's how you become influential. There's no other way.
Exactly. It's like, how can you convince others if you can't even convince yourself, right?
Facts. Yeah.
Yeah.
So true.
And it's so basic. It's just so basic. And yeah, like you said, it's almost missed out upon, and there's a lot of room left on the table for people to take it, and have that faith and have that direction themselves and that leadership role, and then curate their vision. But they just have to have that faith in it, like you're saying.
Everything's so simple. Like the truth is simple at the end of the day. And it's like with nutrition, the right things are very, very simple foods. It's not like these extravagant meals. With, with those principles, I refer to the Bible a lot. I have a way deeper understanding after doing ayahuasca, bro. Like I came back and I read it and I was like, wow, I actually understand what's being talked about here. But it's like talking about, having faith is a narrow path, right? And so it's like, it really is like this super simple thing, but it's the most powerful path that you can take, right? So it's like when we cut out all this BS, and that's why I'm doing this detox journey, bro. At the end of the day, is like every plane of existence that I'm on, I want to cut out the crap. I want to get rid of all of it and just walk aligned to truth of how I'm meant to be. And I don't think we can be sovereign without doing any of these things.
That's awesome. And like the detoxing stuff, it's basically like you're almost carrying like a weight sled. Have you seen those?
Yes. I have one
it's
right
like
next
that,
to
right?
me. Yeah.
And you're just basically taking more and more plates off so you can walk that pathway faster and more efficiently, right? And you're not being
100%.
held back by all the weight on the sled that you're dragging,
And you can get so addicted to carrying that weight too. Like you get a lot of the dudes who are like, yeah, I need a war where I either die or accomplish everything I've set my mind to. It's like, yeah, it's a great fantasy, but it's like, it's just this belief that we have to struggle for what we want. And it's like, suffering is grace at the end of the day, but there's different types of suffering. Like there's self-suffering, and then there's like the suffering of challenge and overcoming obstacles in front of us. And so, a lot of dudes especially are addicted to that feeling of carrying the weight and feeling powerful, like they're the provider. And, a lot of them can go back to their childhoods of, probably not having a perfect relationship with their dad, feeling like they have to lead their family, siblings, whatever it is. And so you can take that to childhood, but it is that addiction a lot of people experience of wanting to carry the weight of the world that's preventing them from actually feeling how they're meant to live in the first place. And it's pretty interesting.
It's very interesting. And I wanted to ask you about like the ayahuasca experience. So you said like when you came back afterwards, you could interpret, the Bible on a much higher level, you know. And I don't want to take the words out of your mouth, but almost like it was speaking to you and in a way that you could clearly understand it instead of reading it like hieroglyphics almost, and you have to try and navigate your way through and you're not quite sure. But almost when you did this experience and you came back and you could see it in 2020 vision.
Yes.
Is that right?
Yeah. So
Yeah.
the reason why is, how do we truly learn something? Is we have to go through it, right?
Mm-hmm.
Like we can be told, you know, what's going to happen, gain knowledge, all these things,
Yeah.
but we don't truly learn something until we actually go through an experience.
Mm-hmm.
Right. And so my second night of ayahuasca, because we did 2 ceremonies.
Yep.
I've talked about this on a bunch of podcasts, but I'll do it again because it's really interesting. I literally died. Like body shut off. Like I had an ego death, but I think my heart stopped too. Like in this in the ceremony. I'm serious.
Yeah.
Right. So there was this one visual I had the second ceremony, because the first night was all about like unconditional love and going through this journey of seeing the truth of who we are.
Mm-hmm.
And that could go for 45 minutes. So I'm not even going to go into it. But the second night, dude, I was in this meditation waiting for the ayahuasca to kick in, because it's got DMT in it, right? So this thing, it's the most powerful thing you could drink. And so I'm in this meditation waiting for it to kick in. And I just started feeling anxious and weird and kind of like just scared. Really bad emotions were coming up. And I was like, what is going on? And it's hard for me to accept these. Right. And so in this meditation, there's this visual of like this gray floor in front of me and then infinite blackness going backwards. And so this blackness would get closer and closer and closer to me. And every time it did, this feeling of fear and these dark vibration energies inside of me would get stronger and stronger. And so the closer it got, it felt like when you have a panic attack and you have that feeling of impending doom.
Yeah.
You know, that's what it was like, except to an infinite degree. Right. And so it got to a point where inside of this darkness, there was this panther weaving in and out every now and then too. And there's like this whole other jaguar experience from the first time. Not getting into that one. But anyway, like this feeling got to me, and I literally, in that moment, I was like, I'm gonna die. Like I accepted my death in that moment, and I could feel the feeling of what it felt like to die. And this panther like bit down on my head, and I had this feeling kind of like when you see TV static, right? So it's like, right? So it just blanks, and I was gone from this reality. Right. I shot into, it wasn't even a realm as much as, here, I actually drew it. Good thing everything's set up around me to tell the perfect story right now. So I went to this realm of self. Right. So I was this point of awareness, and all of these eyes were around me. And in each of these eyes, there are more like fractals, like a sacred geometry.
Yeah.
But I go into each of these eyes and I would become a me, right? So I would become a Mason, right? Or I go into one and I become a Alexander the Great, or like a Jesus, or like even through like Hitler, like all these crazy timelines, bro, experiencing all of them in the infinite. And there was no time here, right? So I was like there literally forever. And I always was. I was in like God presence. I can't even say what it was like for me, because I shed in my mind. But anyway, there was so much stuff that happened there. But I realized, like, when I came back, I kind of came back into my body a little bit at one point, and the shaman was like trying to wake me up. And I was like off the side. So we had these mats with pillows at the top. I was laying off the side, right? And I apparently smacked my head on the wood floor, water bottle flying everywhere. Dude, I literally like crucified when I got eaten by this panther, and I shot out of my body and died. Like dead ass, bro. I literally died. It's so hard to say, but I felt what it felt like. And so with that, I really went through this experience that second night where I had a visual and a visceral experience of me being Jesus and going through this journey of dying on the cross, and what it was like to fully experience infinite fear in front of you. Like, the only fear at the root of all of our fears, the fear of rejection, the fear of judgment, the fear of anything, is just the fear of death of the ego, right? It's death itself, because this mind we have is this projection, right? And death isn't even real in the first place. It's this belief that we have that we die. Our spirit lives on forever, and it always is. It's just transitioning. And the mind itself is the only thing that dies, right? And so when we die, it's our ego dying. And, I realize as I surrendered fully to this death in front of me, accepting the nature of it, not like wanting to die, right? But accepting the nature of what death was, of fear, of all of these things, and accepting what it is, which is that's what unconditional love is, like accepting the nature of something, not, wanting it to be that way, but knowing that
just
it
accepting it for how it is, right?
Yeah. I went through that, and when I died to that, on the other side of that, I experienced infinite truth and oneness in what love really is. And so that moment, especially crucifying and dying on my cross, I was like, wow, I understand the experience of Jesus Christ. I get what it is. And this is what it means to pick up and carry the cross. It's talked about in the Bible, is to do that every single day, is to walk that path, go through your fears, accepting the nature of them, but lovingly conquering them in the same way. Conquering without having to go out and fight it. Because when you fight it, it gets worse. Right? It's like we try and fight our fears, they get worse. We have a freaking panic attack, or we
giving it energy, right?
Yeah, we piss our pants. Like, it's like, bro, don't fight it. Just accept it. Feel it fully, but still charge through it. That's what faith is at the end of the day. And so really this whole book is literally about faith over fear. Like, you have one choice. The opposite of faith is fear, right? So, and you learn too that fear is an illusion at the end of the day. And so anyway, I go through that experience. I was like, wow, I truly understand this. I had this desire to learn it more, to really understand the knowledge of what was being said. And I read it now, and it's this different meaning, because I can see it from that behind the veil perspective of someone who's walking through the path, rather than someone who's trying to sit in church and comprehend it. Right?
Exactly. So right. And it's your interpreting it how it best fits you, instead of listening to someone else's interpretation of how it relates to them,
Right. And a lot of people too, I mean, they sit in church every Sunday, but it's like the Saturday before they're blowing coke up their nose, it's like, it's like you're not practicing it, so you're not actually going to understand the message ever. It's like, you don't know what Moses felt like crossing a freaking desert until you go out and you cross a desert, or you do something extremely hard. Like, that's why I do these crazy things, is because they fully immerse me into these spiritual lessons that we're here to learn. And so, from that experience too, the Sovereign workshop I'm going to, and I'm going to like this workshop next week to embody what it means to fully be a sovereign man. I met this guy who I consider a master of what that means. Can't tell you what it means, but it's an energy you feel, right? And so I'd signed up for this just kind of on faith and feeling like I should before ayahuasca. But I came back from ayahuasca and I was like, how do I embody all this knowledge that I've learned in the infinite and bring it into my finite self and integrate it? And in that moment, I was like, oh, dude, I got this workshop coming up in Scotland. Like, I set this up in advance, bro. My soul already knew.
Yeah.
So that's coming up this upcoming week, to really embody these things. And, that's like the spiritual detox more than anything, is cutting out the things that are not true. There's legal system, there's law. That's a whole nother podcast we could talk about at some point, but it's there. Yeah. Wild. Been going through this just crazy esoteric journey.
That's awesome. It's really interesting to hear, at least for myself. I'm sure people listening will think it's very interesting as well. It's not like a story you hear often, Everyone, like in any sort of religious person or story, you usually hear it's the same thing you've heard 1,000 times before, because no one's actually having their own original story and being that authenticity,
Right. Yeah.
So actually hearing like that first person perspective from your side with that authenticity behind it and the journey that you felt that you went through, and now how you can interpret different signs and different things in life and the way to live life and how to be a man and everything like that. It's really interesting to hear. So I'm all here for it.
I appreciate it. I mean, that's what we're here to do at the end of the day.
Mm-hmm.
I would rather live a life just having amazing experiences and learning things and leveling up my consciousness than just trying to focus it all on getting rich forever, because true wealth's in the spirit.
Yep. I was just actually talking to a guy about this yesterday. It's, if you're only aligning yourself for financial success, you'll find you're never satisfied because you're constantly chasing a dragon that is never big enough, and once you reach it, it's 100 meters away again. It's like you're driving in a tunnel that never ends, rather than if you're more so living in alignment with your true self and your true purpose, you're still driving, but you're driving on a nice seafront, sun setting, beautiful trees around, and you're just enjoying the drive rather than just gunning for the end of the tunnel that never comes. So it's a much different experience of life. And also it's just so much better in every single metric, and it's no one, at least in the mainstream sort of thing, no one's really doing it,
Not only that, but the tunnel of money doesn't even exist in the first place. It's like money isn't even real.
Yeah.
That's the thing. Like, we look at money and what we have, fiat currency, right? Which is literally like this energy that represents debt based on future labor that's yet to be performed.
Mm-hmm.
Right? That's what literally our whole system is based on.
Yep.
Right? So it's like you're using future debt of something that isn't even made up, that was just printed, right?
Yeah.
To
printed yesterday,
Yeah, right. So it's like there's nothing even it's representing.
Yeah.
Like other than something that doesn't even exist yet. So it's literally made out of debt. They'll never be able to clear the debt because it was made from debt in the first place. Right? And so it's like when you chase money, you're chasing a ghost. You're chasing your own tail. It doesn't even exist because money is just literally an extension of our expansion. Boom. That's a good quote.
That's a good one. I like that one.
Yeah.
Unpack that one for us.
Yeah. So like wealth is it's a spiritual process.
Yeah.
If we read, I'll go back to the Bible. So
the difference between wealth and, rich, right? Because there's a difference, right?
Yeah. So it's the same as like teach, get a man a fish, he'll eat for a day. Teach a man a fish, he'll eat for a lifetime. Right. Yep. So it's like riches are the experience that we have on the outside, but wealth is what has been created on the inside to even manifest it outwardly. Right? And so if you look in the Bible where King Solomon is in a dream talking to God, right? God comes to him and he offers King Solomon whatever he wants. He's saying, I am your genie. I will make your wish come true. And so King Solomon could have asked for riches, for fame, for any of those things. But instead, what he asked for was, I want the wisdom to guide my people. Right? And because he asked God that, and there's a powerful lesson in here, God not only blessed him with the wisdom to guide his people, but as a byproduct, he said, I'm going to give you all those extra things on top of some sauce, and I'm going to make you that guy, right? You're going to lead everybody. So, the lesson is when we align ourselves with the wealth of the spirit, that's when the universe is blessing us and like, okay, they know what's up. I'm going to give them the things they see on the outside too, because I'm going to build them up where they're truly wealthy on the inside. It's like money is you could call fiat infinite because they keep printing it, but it's like this
Yeah.
finite, it's this finite thing in front of you, right? And so
Mm-hmm.
it's like the true infinite is this everything we don't see, right? And so like that's what money represents in the first place. It's a representation, it's an idea. And an
Mm.
idea comes from this infinite everything around us, right? So when we tap into that and we see the unseen reality around us, that's how we truly generate this wealth. And it compounds at the end of the day. So it's not like you read one book, you forget it when you read the next. It's like the knowledge from the last one stacks and
Yeah.
stacks and stacks, and then you get this exponential growth, right? And so it's like there's no such thing as an overnight success. Maybe some every now and then, but it's more so their knowledge of experience
Yeah.
and the preparation just put them in the position. So when that opportunity hit, they were aligned to it.
Mm-hmm. Totally. Absolutely agree with you there. I wanted to ask, so if there's someone listening right now, right, and they find themselves chasing their tail, chasing the dragon that doesn't exist, right, driving in that dark tunnel with no end in sight, chasing that financial, quote unquote success and external riches, what advice would you give them in order to start aligning themselves with that purpose and build that internal wealth?
So I'd say, what are you chasing the money for in the first place? And what
Yeah.
feeling are you trying to get?
Yeah.
Right. And so it's like when you figure out the feeling that you're trying to get, how else can you create that feeling for yourself? And why are you trying to feel that? Like, are you trying to feel security? Are you trying to feel freedom? Right. So it's like when you know these things, well, one, you may feel insecure in yourself. You may feel controlled. Where in your life are you letting insecurities happen? Where are you feeling insecure in your life and where are you not feeling it fully? Where in your life are you feeling like you're controlled, feeling like there's an authority out there that can control you? And why are you letting that happen? What beliefs in the past led to that? And why are you not allowing yourself to feel fully that maybe there is an authority and you feel through that and you feel angry, but then it dissipates and you realize, no, they're actually not in control of me. So it's always going back to a relation that we had with someone else in the past, which everyone else is really just ourselves, a different fractal, right? So, these things that we're chasing with money are just feelings that we haven't fully felt ourselves. So what are those feelings and how can you put yourself in a position to feel those today? It's usually going to be doing something you don't want to do.
Yeah, it's always something that you don't want to do, right?
Yeah.
And that's why you've avoided it for so much time up until this point of inflection where you're kind of brought face to face with it and you have to face it now,
Right.
and it just you just build it up and build it up in your mind, but in reality it's nothing. It's just all this internal pressure that you're putting on yourself over something that's not even real, over something that you've just created and self-imposed this huge mental stress or fear or not feeling good enough or whatever the feeling may be. It's all self-inflicted, and then once you sort of realize that, you can actually break free of it.
Yeah. I mean, those fears in front of you, like the more energy you put into them, the more they grow. Like if it is the embodiment of fear, like I had experienced in mine, fear would eat fear. So like the more you give into it, the more it's going to grow, the bigger
Yeah.
it's going to get and the harder it's going to chomp down on you. But like on the other side of it is exactly here. Like you're fine. Well, you see people going through these situations where they're like bugging out and you look around and it's like, what are they tweaking out for? They're
And
in
there's
this
nothing
little,
there. Yeah.
there's nothing there. They're in this little world where they're like, ah, and it's like, dude, you're fine. Like look around, the sun's out, you're good.
Yeah.
It's like
Yeah.
belief.
It's like fighting a war in your head, right? And fighting like an internal war because you're almost not aligned internally.
Right. Exactly. And it's just alignment to truth and faith at the end of the day. It comes back to that one thing.
So how would someone start their alignment with truth and faith? Because it's basically the same thing, right?
Yeah. So the biggest thing first is most people, since they're not doing that, it means they're not already able to see this unseen realm, which is like these spiritual things, right? So they're not aligned with that yet. You want to start with things we can see, which is nutrition, fitness. Like, get yourself in a place where those are vital first, and those become clear and natural. Like, align with nature in the physical sense. Because
Mm-hmm.
what you do, and I have a 5-step purpose formula to help anyone find their
Yeah.
purpose. It's legit and it's worked every time.
Yeah.
But you want to tap into the physical, right? Because when you do that, it's going to clear you out in the gut and move the energy through your body, which is going to clear your mind, right? And all our mind is like this camera lens that's focusing on things we want, and the shutters can open or close. The more closed we are in the body, like what we're feeding it, the more closed the camera. So when you open up the lens, then the light can shine through, which is your spirit, and you can illuminate that into the world. That's where you feel confident. That's where you feel certain, right? So you start at the physical and move your way up to that. And then once you get the spirit in check and you're starting to flow with it, then you have a deeper connection to like who you actually are. You're like, oh, here's what I'm good at. Here's what I'm able to help people with. Here's the experiences I've gone through. You have awareness now, right? Spirit is really just awareness, right? And so when you have awareness of who you are, you can cultivate your skill set, the things that you're magnetized to. For me, it was like video creation or communication like we're doing right now.
Mm-hmm.
And then after that, you put it into a vehicle that you use to help the world. And that's literally the formula to find your purpose. You take your full self and you become this vessel of change for the world. You package yourself up.
Yeah, and it's a beautiful, beautiful formula. And I even use it myself. I've used it with people I work with, friends. It's almost like bulletproof. I can't see a hole in it because it works so well every time.
Yeah, for sure.
And it's like the physical element of this is basically like the foundation, because without it, like with your physical health, like you said, that camera lens is closed and you have like a veil all around you, and you can't actually tap into that proper mindset and that healthy mindset. And then from there, the spiritual side, and from there, it's hard to find your purpose if you're, 300 pounds overweight and you feel like crap all the time and you have no divine connection. It's really hard to find what you actually enjoy doing. It's usually going to be some sort of entertainment outlet that makes you feel good at the time, but down the line, it's kind of biting you in the ass. And then there's no way you can share, like, package that in a vehicle and share it with the world if there's nothing there in the first place, right? So it's really like very, very powerful in terms of how to align yourself and how to get that purpose within your life.
Yeah, and I mean, it's like with the alignment too, that's why I'm doing the detox, because you can be aligned but still to the wrong thing. So many people find so much monetary success be like, they think their agency is their end all be all. And it's like, no, you're still unfulfilled.
Yeah.
And you know it. And so it's like, okay, well, let's try something else on the physical plane, because things do start in the spirit and go to the mental and to the physical. Like our beliefs, will translate down into our body.
Yeah.
And that's why you get like hypochondriacs and all that.
Yeah.
But it's also the other way too. And what we put into our environment, into our physical state, goes upwardly. So it's like, as we clear out and detox all of these things that are not meant for us, it leaves us no choice but to have the things that are meant for us, right? It clears out all the garbage to get us into energetic alignment to be where we're meant to be. And the thing is, at the end of the day, we're not even trying to do anything specific or become anyone specific. We're just trying to release what's already there in the highest, most expressed way, right? So it's just this energetic alignment we're all trying to get to. It's self-realization is the end. It's the end goal for everybody. And so like that 5-step purpose formula I have is more of a goal. It's more of a way to get self-actualized, right? To become who we're meant to be. But then to self-realize, we have to take ourselves and we have to connect to everything else around us, because everything else around us is us, right? And so we don't understand our full nature until we tap into our own nature and we give it to other people to experience as well and help them raise their vibration and step into that too.
100%. So you can basically show up as the best possible version of yourself, and then through doing that, influence others in that same path, in that same way, to take a similar path, so that they too can, reach that high vibrational state and reach that point of purpose, and they're actually enjoying life. And because you see it, like, it's sad to see, it's everywhere in the West. It's no one's really living with purpose, and on the grand scheme of things, it's really hard to see. Like, you go into, I don't know, like a mall or like a shopping center or like these sort of places, like a grocery store, it's like rare to see someone even fulfilling that base level, that physical portion. It's
100%.
really rare. So that just, like, if you extrapolate it to the final step, it's going to be even rarer that people are actually have that self-actualization and that purpose and everything.
Yeah, I mean, it's like you literally can just change the world by showing up as your full self. I mean, why am I going to Scotland in the middle of the Highlands to meet some random dude off the internet who I've talked to one time on a Zoom?
Yeah.
It's like there's something energetic about him. The inside of me knows, like, that's where I'm meant to go. Right? So it's like we can do that just by showing up. That's how what I've built has built up around me, is just becoming the man that is aligned to where I want to go. And so, yeah, it's like, just show up as yourself. That's the best thing you can do. That's the best gift you can give to the world, because so many people are just living in a cage.
Yeah. Self-imposed cage as well.
Yeah.
And it's extremely easy. You usually see it as they're blaming someone for putting the cage there, right? And that's like the first step to never getting out of the cage, right? Once you realize you've built the bars, you welded them to the ground, you put the roof on, you did the lock, and you bent it so you can never get it undone. You put that there yourself. But once you realize that, you can instantly bend the bars and escape.
Right.
But
yeah, I mean, you look at someone, bro, you're like, oh, they put me in this situation. Okay, look at your belief. They put you in it, which means you raise them above you, which means you've willingly disempowered yourself to the point of being a submissive in BDSM, right? Like, that's what you've done to yourself. You're spanking your own ass. Like, you're doing this. So it's like, it always comes back to yourself, and how you're relating to yourself is being translated out in the world in front of you for you to see. That's really it.
And if someone else has the key to the cage, you're never going to get out. But when you just realize that you had the key in your pocket the whole time, and at any point you can just choose to unlock it and walk out and become the man that you're meant to be, or the woman you're meant to be, and just become the human that you're meant to be.
Yeah.
But the first step is to figure out you actually have the key to the cage,
Yeah, and then most people don't want the uncertainty of what's outside of it too. They want the comfort. That's why you see so many people go to jail for 30 years. They leave and they're immediately back in.
Yeah.
It's because, wow, they go from this little tiny world that they know they're comfortable in, their emotions. They literally have a trauma bond to where they're at.
Yeah.
Right. And so they go out in the world and it's like, oh, I'm not safe here. Like, I have to go back inside of my jail.
Yeah.
That's what it's like for most people.
Yeah. It's like being comfortable in the familiar, and if the cage is literally a jail cell, but that's familiar to you, you're going to find comfort and solace in it, and you're going to want to be there. And it doesn't matter how big the cage is, you're still in a cage, self-imposed cage, and then realizing that, if you even have to walk 100 meters to the other end of the cage, you can still unlock it and get yourself out. If that's like being in like a small, like, little town and you never want to leave because it's too scary, the big world, or even you don't even want to go out into the other places of your own country because it's so big and scary, and it's like coming face to face with that fear, and not letting it dictate your actions, because then you're giving into the fear and making it even worse than it is. And it's all in your head.
Yeah, you have to really, I mean, it's hard too when you haven't experienced anything else. Like, if you just don't have the awareness of what's on the outside, it's like you need to focus on cultivating that awareness. There's this thing called Plato's allegory. I'm sure you've heard it, where, and if not, it's basically this allegory where these people are living in a cave, right, their entire lives. And so one of the people in this cave walk out, and they see outside of this cave there's this whole world of nature, right? And so he's going back, he's like, guys, look, like outside of this cave, if you go outside, there's a whole nother world. Like, we don't have to sit in here, we can go eat like food. They have all these fruits and all this stuff.
Yeah.
And people look, they're like, what are you talking about, bro?
Yeah.
Like, this is all that's here. And it's like, because they've grown up in this cave and they never stepped foot outside of it, right? And so it's like, the door is there, you just have to see it and even attempt to walk in. It's curiosity is the only thing that will take you there.
Yeah. And there's a huge, almost lack of curiosity now, and it's even worse in the younger generation below us, and the one below them too. It's even less, like exponentially less curiosity, even if it's like a super simple thing like getting your driver's license, and getting your driver's license. So then you can go be curious. You can go out to the park or the woods, or you can go look around outside, like between your and your buddy's house, like, and that's the only circuit you do. But once you can actually reach out to the world, and you find out it's bigger and bigger and bigger, and there's more and more to learn, but it's almost like numbed. That curiosity is numbed through these like entertainment systems and things, like, why go out into the world where there could be like some sort of negative outcome when I have my level 99 wizard on the game box, on the PlayStation, and I have my own fantasy world that's perfect for me, and I'm comfortable in there, but
I mean, if you look at entertainment, bro, like I forget if that's the Latin or Greek root of it, but it literally means to go in and like take over your mind. That's entertainment. Like that's what it is. So it's like, the responsibility people would feel from even getting a license and having to get in the car, that deters them. And it's like, you look around at the world today too, there's so many things to be curious about. But the irony in that is that with so many overwhelming options, we don't want to be curious about any of them. We want to just remove them. Right. So it's like, I think a lot of people too just don't, there's so much to be responsible for out there. They can't even imagine what it feels like to be responsible for one thing, because they're constantly getting bombarded with all these other things too. So it's just like this weight where we've created so much gunk around us. The only way to get to where we need to go is to detox.
The colon cleanse.
That's all it is.
The first
Get it out, bro.
That's good. It's the secret, man. You need to send me the protocol. I'm interested to look into it for sure.
I'll walk you through it. Yeah,
Totally.
You'll probably be like a step or two behind me, so.
Yeah, for sure, dude. I'm interested. Cool. You've been traveling a lot recently, right? So you went and hiked, I'm gonna butcher this pronunciation, but Mount Kilimanjaro? Is that correct?
Yeah, you got it.
Look at that.
Yeah, it's
Tell me about that.
Highest freestanding mountain on Earth. Is 19,341 feet. So I think that's 5,000.
What's that in meters?
I think 5,000 something. Yeah.
Yeah. So it's pretty high. Pretty high.
It was high. That was a really cool experience. So if ayahuasca was the journey inward on a mountain, then that was the opposite. Perfect timing for it. But like, man, the altitude sickness I experienced, that was like the hardest thing I've ever done in my life by far.
Yeah.
Like, I mean, you're up there, I'm throwing up day 2. My head feels like I have knives inside of it. It's horrible. Really, really bad experience. I mean, the trip itself was really cool, but, you feel like shit. At least I did doing it. I think it's because I'm in Florida, so I'm at sea level.
Yeah.
But, yeah, man. I mean, the day before we climb, so when you summit, you have to summit at nighttime, right? Okay. Because there's like gravel going up the side of this mountain. So at nighttime it freezes, so it actually has a firm path.
Oh, right. Yeah. Okay. Makes sense.
Yeah. And so the day of, we had trekked like 5 hours over, right? And so I'm crossing the freaking desert, puking everywhere. Just kind of like, it was bad, dude. Like, people were
Yeah.
not in good shape. And I literally felt like I was going to die. And so we get to base camp and we're there for 5 or 6 hours before we have to summit. Right. And so, like, people aren't really sleeping. We had somewhat of a dinner. But it's like, other than that, yeah, you're pretty much raw dogging the mountain, like no sleep at all.
Yeah.
Right. And so I get up at like 10 p.m. and there's 2 climbing groups. Right. So I went in the slower group because I was still in horrible shape from the day of. I was not doing well. But I was so determined to get to the top. I was like, I didn't come all this way just to sit at base camp. I'm not doing that. Because we're already like 4 days in, 4 or 5 days in. So that trek up, out of the 6 people that went in my group, 3 had to go back. One of them had pulmonary edema, which also had swelling in the lungs, and one had cerebral edema, and then someone else was having heart like palpitations and shit. So there's like medevacs going on. It was crazy. But like, dude, it was like a 7-hour trek up this mountain, right? Like from the base of it.
Yeah.
Right. So it's like 1, 2 in the morning. We're all asleep. The rest of us that are walking are just like dead asleep. My heart's like barely pumping. Yeah. I'm the only one left with like my backpack and poles because the other ones were starting to like not even be able to carry it. So we each have a porter who's carrying our stuff. And like the porters were carrying the 2 in front of us. There's Kevin and Liz left in my group. Kevin's literally, while we're on this path that's probably this skinny, right? And you look down and it's like, oh, that's like a mile drop. I would die. Right. And then you look up and you're like, I'm not even getting closer to the top. Yeah. So this kind of sucks. But anyway, there's all these people behind you too. So it's not like you could go back if you wanted to.
Yeah.
But Kevin's waddling around. He's falling asleep. He almost falls off the mountain. I slap him in the head. And he's like, Joe, like, you're going to die. And every time you talk up at that altitude, you get a headache because you're losing this air from your lungs. I'm like, dude, just like get it together, bro. I can't talk anymore. I'm like, I can't help you anymore. I don't want to talk. And so we're probably like 5 hours into this thing. I'm just like, I look up. It still looks like we haven't gone anywhere. I'm like, are we going to get there or what? And so I'm finally sitting there talking to the main guy in my group. And I'm bent over holding my heart at one point because it was probably going 150 beats per minute. I thought I was legit going to have a heart attack. And he's just like, I was like, oh, I need to chill for a minute. Because we'd stop every 10 minutes. He looks at me, grabs me on the shoulder. This guy's climbed 300 times. Damn. And he's like, you will make it to the top. We did not come all this way. I was like, I'm going to make it to the top. And so I got my second win there, or probably like the 20th win, whatever it was at that point. And, we keep walking. Then about an hour later, I see the rocks starting to freeze around us, and they start to get jagged. I'm like, oh, we're getting close to the top. And so we get up there. I'm going to find the video while I talk about it because it's so much cooler to see. We get close to the top, and we finally hit this one ridge, and we see the sun coming up, and I'm just like, wow, I've never seen a view like this before in my life. As I'm looking out into the distance, I can see multiple countries out in there. I can see the entire earth beneath us, the clouds. I'm looking into the crater of this volcano, and you could put multiple cities inside of it. I'm just the mass scale of this, bro, just puts so much in perspective of how small we are and how small our problems actually are. Yeah. And I was like, this mountain itself, this whole volcano is so big, and if you look at it on the map of the earth, it's a pimple. Yeah, it's like, tiny, right? Yeah, it doesn't even, it barely exists. Yeah. Right. And so I'm just like, wow, there's so much to put in perspective now. Like, I really don't have as many issues as I thought. Yeah. Like the business is whatever. Like, I'm up here with no oxygen.
Yeah, exactly. Difficult things put things in perspective, right?
Yes. And so here's like the view I saw up at the top. So like that's the sunrise coming up.
Oh, wow.
Dude. Like you see all the clouds down there. Let me find this one.
That's beautiful.
Yeah. was chilling at the top. Finally made it up to the top.
Yeah.
But yeah, dude. So anyway, we're at that one peak where the sun was coming up.
Mm-hmm.
I'm like crying because I'm like, oh, we made it. Thank God I can stop, you know? And so I look at the guide and he goes, okay, let's keep going to the top. I'm like, bro, what are you talking about? It's like, there's another 30-minute trek across the ridge we have to do to get to the highest point. I'm like, you got to be kidding me right now. So we're going through, I wish I had the GoPro footage on my phone, but, and I couldn't capture all that because it was so cold, the GoPro kept turning off. So it's like, yeah, dude, I had a buff on that would freeze. I was like ice on my face. But there was one point as you're trekking across the peak, there's like these little ice paths, super slippery, right? And so inside of these ice paths is basically a drop into the volcano. Like you fall in, you're done. You're done. Good night. No one's coming to get you too, because a helicopter will not be able to fly over that shit and come get you. So we're walking across this ice path, and this porter in front of me wipes out. He slips on the ice, and he turns around. He's like, "Yo, be careful! Like, be careful!" Right there, he's pointing. I'm like, okay. So I walk the other direction. I still have my poles, but I hit a point where I slip, and as I slip, I start to fall to the right, and I'm about to fall into the
hole
volcano, into the hole of the volcano, bro. And I take one of my poles and I jam it into the ice, and it stops me. And on my Instagram, you can go look at the picture where it's bent, right? So this thing literally like stopped me from falling to my death, and I had like no oxygen going on. So I'm looking and just kind of like laughing, like, I almost died, you know, like, I almost died there. And so I stop myself and I get back up. Chick behind me wipes out too, and she smacks her porter in the face with the pole. He's like bleeding, you know. So like all this crazy shit's happening, but yeah, we finally made it to the top. We're up there for like 15 minutes. We're like, okay, we gotta get down. There's no oxygen, and your cells are literally dying, right? Like with the lack of oxygen, your body is literally dying every single second that you're up there. So like, we got to get down because we're not meant to be up here. And so we go down the same path we came up. Took 3 hours. The sun had came up at that point, so a lot of the ice was frozen. And we're doing this like sand skating type thing down the side of the mountain. Yeah, it was so cool. Where every step I take was like 5 steps.
Yeah.
I'm like coming down this mountain like I'm on the moon.
Yeah.
My legs are getting fried, bro. For 3.5 hours. I'm following these porters too. And it just puts how much in perspective, like how easy our lives are. Because I'm like, these guys have been carrying our stuff on their head 5 hours to each camp. They're climbing the mountain. They come down. They're just like chilling. And then they go to the next one. And it's like, so we trek down 3.5 hours, get to base camp, have some food. I take like a 20-minute nap. And then Jan, who put this together, he's like, okay, now we're going to the next camp, which is the lower elevation. So we had to trek another 6 hours after getting there. Right? So it's this big day, man. Bro, big day. My feet were trashed, absolutely trashed. But it was like, it's one of those things where you go through it, it really just connects you back to yourself. And you know, there's a quote I read where when we climb a mountain, it's not about getting to the top of the mountain, it's about discovering who we are on the way up. Right? And so that's really what it was at the end of the day. Is because we become this person as we climb these peaks and these mountains in our lives, especially the hardest ones. Like the view at the top's cool, but it's more about the transformation we make on the way up, mentally, physically, spiritually. And that's really what I experienced too at the end of the day. And it's this new vantage point on life that, you know, I can't even imagine what someone on Everest who's lived has seen, you know, because that's 30,000 feet, which is like, that's another half of Kilimanjaro. High. Yeah, it's crazy. I'm not doing that one. I'm chilling. I've got high enough, bro. I'm enough of a man.
You've learned the lessons.
I'm good. I like my oxygen down here. I'm chilling. There's other challenges. So anyway, yeah, climbing that though was a huge perspective shift. So cool. It's one of those things you can't really put into words. Cameras don't do it justice. Yeah. You just have to experience the divine in front of you.
Yeah, the beauty of it all, right?
Yeah, the beauty of it, just the depth of the field, like man, I mean, you literally see other countries in there. It's wild. I mean, I skydived from 15,000 feet, right? So it's like I was standing up higher than I've jumped out of a plane.
Yeah, that's crazy, right?
It's crazy. I'm like, wow. Yeah,
Yeah, damn, that really puts it into perspective.
it does, dude. And man, there's not much to say other than like how much of a struggle it was and how much it changes your perspective when you get to the top. But other than that too, like, great group of people around you. You want people that you can lean on, trust, because it's high intensity. It's not like a casual hike. It
Yeah,
took 6 days total, something like
yeah.
that. So it was wild.
Plus a humongous last day hiking. That sounds outrageous.
Bro, it was nuts. And then the last day they said it'd take us 2 hours to get to the end, and it took like 7. So yeah, it's like, okay, nice.
They're just selling you the dream, you know?
Oh,
Only 2
dude,
hours left, guys, and then you're 2 hours in. They're like, only 2 hours left, and they do it again, and it's still another hour, you know?
bro, we were pissed. We were so mad. I was like, stop lying about shit, dude. You do that so much. It's like, we gotta at least prepare. It's cool if we have time to prepare, but we did it.
At least mentally know, you know?
Yeah. Yeah, so like with that, I have an expedition I'm hosting in June, which is gonna be
Awesome.
super dope. Yeah, it's gonna be in El Salvador. We have an active volcano we're doing there. It's like kind of a baby. But with that, we're also gonna have a shamanic ritual we're doing. It's a masculine awakening ritual in the ancient Mayan ruins. It's gonna be really dope.
That's awesome, man.
Yeah, horseback on the beach, the holistic transformation, personal branding, awakening the dog for your content, like all types of stuff. It's gonna be dope.
Dude, that's awesome. Like, give us some more detail. Is that like a publicly advertised thing? Is that an invitational only sort of thing, or what's the deal?
So yeah, it's more like I want the right people coming.
Yeah.
It is public. We're about to close it in a couple weeks. We have about, I think, 11 dudes right now. Absolute dogs. It's
Absolute
cool.
dogs.
Yeah, that's who I want around, bro.
Yeah, 100%, man.
Yeah, it's June 19th through 23rd in El Salvador. So yeah, it's this 4-day expedition basically. Like, we'll have the master classes, all that stuff. It's about aligning the masculine and feminine energies inside of ourselves, bringing them together, and then putting it into a vehicle to help you expand, right? So the masculine type things are the adventurous stuff with the challenges. The feminine cultivation is more so like the breath work, the meditation, all that stuff to tap in and connect, right? And then you take those two things, and then we do the master classes on how to show up more present and fully and authentic on camera, like in your content, using that in social media as a vessel to express yourself and magnetize your dream reality to you. Because that's all I see social media as, is a podium to really just expand. It's expanding our message out, right? So it's like that's how you magnetize people in. It's a giant fishing pole. So yeah,
Totally.
that's how I treat it,
Yeah, it's the way it should be treated, right? Because you got to remember that's like 0.001% of people on social media, is using it, or basically it uses you, right? And your attention. And you can use it in a way to, like you said, cast out your message and find like-minded people and, improve the world and spread your purpose and what you're good at and what you love. Or you can use it to actively take away from that and actively take away from the development that needs to happen so that you can eventually be that guy and spread that message, because instead of doing that, you're watching someone else's dream rather than cultivating your own.
100%. Yeah, I mean, it's so addictive too, when most people haven't learned how to validate themselves, they get caught up in the validation of others. So, I know a lot of people who've gone down that route. It's a lot like money, where it just amplifies your true self at the end of the day, like who's really underneath. And I've seen a lot of people find success in that and kind of turn into shitheads a little bit. It's like, if I'm being real. So it's like, you got to be very conscious of that, and using it as a podium for yourself and your message, staying aligned with like the truth. There's a
Yeah.
lot of false shepherds out there. People
Mm.
saying messages they don't actually live with or align with or do.
Yeah.
So it's like just follow the people who are living and practicing what they preach at the end of the day.
100%. And like you said, it's like that authenticity is like one of the highest forms, right? And
For sure.
having that authentic message that you yourself live by and swear by. And it's like, it's the same thing again, like we were talking about at the start. Is like, how can you expect to convince other people if you can't even convince yourself to do what you're saying, you know?
Exactly.
And
Yeah.
it might work for a time, but it's not like a longevity style foundation that you're building. It's basically like a quick, build up the cards and then it's going to tumble, and it's just like a time bomb until it does tumble. Whereas the other way, you're building those strong foundations, you're actually living by it, you're having that authenticity, that truth, and you're being guided, with that faith in what you do. And that's what magnetizes people to it, right? And that's what people love. And you can see that now there's quite a big shift, I feel, is people are craving that authenticity in
Right.
what they reach for. And it's sort of been like exposed per se of like the non-authenticity through all of these like creators and personalities and just people out there, and people have kind of realized, oh, it's all fake, so they're really craving that authenticity and that authentic self that's something that they can relate with,
For sure. Yeah, I mean, there's so much creation and editing
Mm,
that at the end of the day, like, one, that becomes a commodity, just all these different edits and stuff like that. But,
mm,
the expression is unlimited. Like, expression's coming from that infinite within, and we're just bringing out from our current experience of reality into the world that people can relate with.
mm,
So it's like, yeah, the authentic content really is what's hitting, because we have so much fakeness going on around us. Like, people don't know how to be authentic themselves. They don't know how to express from themselves. And so they're just drawn to someone. It's not even like, you watch like Sam Solik, right?
mm,
It's not like the dude is doing anything crazy in his videos. He's jack sure, like, they want to be like that. But what people really want at a deeper level that they don't even know is that they're just trying to be able to express themselves super real in the moment, like he's doing. Like,
mm.
that's the draw. It has nothing to
Yeah,
do, sure, yeah, being a bodybuilder, that's awesome because they have that shared interest. But
yeah,
it's that expression, especially a lot of like fitness guys, they're caged up in themselves and they're trying to express it through the physical,
mm,
so it's like you get a lot of insecurity in that space too, which is, a lot of like hardcore bodybuilders, especially ones that juice up,
mm.
a lot of it's for that aesthetic purpose of feeling a certain way, wanting to become a certain person, which is an expression issue. It's nothing aesthetic.
Yeah. It's attaching their personality and their soul to an external factor, right? I
Right.
am that massive bodybuilder, I am the fighter, I am the whatever, it's like attaching themselves to that thing,
Right.
which dissolves the authenticity rather than it coming from within,
Yeah. And it's like you put yourself in that box. Like, as soon as you become the bodybuilder, you can't be anything other than the bodybuilder.
Exactly.
So it's like taking an ID card, right? It's like I
Yeah.
am this ID. I am
Yeah.
everything you see on here, but I
Yeah.
can't be anything outside of it. Like, you're putting yourself into this box again.
Yeah. It's another self-imposed cage, man.
It always is. It comes back to like everything we talked about literally comes back to like three things. That's the funny thing about it.
Yeah, it's the same with like basically everything. It's like all comes back to the fundamentals, and just
Right.
like the fundamentals of life and getting those things right, you're gonna find, and following those and following that truth, and like you said, that path, that
Right.
kind of guides it and lays it all out, maybe in a cryptic way to some and maybe in a very clear way to others. And it's just following those principles and those fundamental things that are going to take you to that point that you're looking at to go, if that is pure hearted, the ideal destination.
Yeah. Clear out the BS and you'll be able to feel that path.
Colon detox.
Yes, sir. Start with the liver though.
Start with the liver. All right. Okay. Well, we're coming up on about an hour and a half. So probably I just want to touch on one last thing is for guys that, are listening, they might not know like too much about like what it is you actually do and things like that. So obviously, if you want to just give us a quick rundown, what it is, you're doing. I know we're just talking about defining yourself and things, but give us like a rundown on the business and the company.
Yeah, so I own a brand called the Stampede Network, holistic performance supplement brand. Basically, I equip men and women with the tools to do exactly what I'm talking about. So we provide all the resources that help you become that type of person I'm talking about, who's tapped in, aligned with their spirit, on purpose, has a mission, knows who they are, and is empowered from the inside out, right? So it's like our mission at the end of the day is heal people's spirits, and everything takes care of the rest. So yeah, our supplements are super cool, all holistic focus, mind, body, spirit targeting. We have one called Spartan Bee Bread. Probably seen the ad if they're watching this. It's I'd say at this point. But yeah, like everything is done, taken from nature, synergized to affect not just like a certain purpose, but the entire environment of everything that's involved, right? So like our pre-workout, for example, called Awakened. If you look at coffee and caffeine in general, they're diuretic, right? So we piss out all the minerals and vitamins that we need, and also too at the same time it can affect our adrenal glands and overdo our cortisol release, and over time that puts stress there. So it's like with that product, I wanted to create something that one replenishes the minerals in the body, but also takes stress off the adrenal glands, and at the same time uses other functions to get us that same effect, which is through nootropics, and then also helping testosterone, dopamine, and serotonin, so that we can make the process of hard work enjoyable. Like, how could I make a blend that you take it and you look at something in front of you and you're like, I want to conquer that, right? So that's what I put into this, and this like synergistic, holistic blend. And that's a lot of what I'm putting out right now. I love doing this mad scientist thing and creating these blends they affect us on all planes, right, of existence. They're super esoteric, all about spiritual performance, but also the physical and the mental performance. So yeah, I got that going on with the brand. And then this expedition I mentioned is taking, this first one's dudes only, but taking people through this real life transformation experience. And it's called the Awakening Expedition. So helping them awaken, realize that power, have some programs working on the back end too, digital programs with, helping creators, founders especially, step into this role of the embodied leader who can magnetize, who can communicate, who is influential, while also detoxing them of the BS around them, transforming them into someone who is cool and worth following, right? Like become someone worth following at the end of the day.
Yeah.
Right. So that's the message of it. And then, just some other programs really starting to step out a little bit and expand into other brands too. So building, creating, and just going on these weird experiences that are, super unique to me, and just coming back to share the story of it.
I like it, man. I really like what you're doing. Everything that you're doing is awesome. So tell everyone when they can find you, Mason.
Yeah, so you guys can follow me at Mason Kuhr, Kuhr, everywhere. Got Instagram, Twitter, TikTok, YouTube. Hopefully TikTok stays around. We'll see. YouTube. And then, my brand is thestampedenetwork.com, at the Stampede Network. You can find that everywhere too.
Awesome, brother. Well, it was a real pleasure having you on. This is a very fun one, and I'm sure everyone listening had an awesome time as well. So thank you very much.
Appreciate it, bro. This is awesome.
All right. Bye-bye, everyone.
Sir, thank you.